guys, it's Matt from Kuro Property Group, and today we're going to be focusing on one of the major benefits of investing in property, which is monthly cash flow. So as we've explained, monthly cash flow is essentially the profit that you make after you deduct all expenses from your property every single month. So a lot of people think that, if you're renting out a property and you're just covering your bond, you're doing well. But you must remember that that's not the only expense that you pay for every month when it comes to a rental property. Other expenses include things like your levies, if you're living in a homeowners association or sectional title. Things like maintenance. When things break, you've got to fix them. You might be having a rental agent managing your portfolio or your property for you, and you have to pay them a commission or a monthly fee. You also have to have some reserves in case you have a vacancy for a month or two. So you must remember that your bond repayment is not only the expense that you're going to be paying each and every month on your rental properties. Now, with that in mind, we've got to ask ourselves the question, okay, so how do we make our properties cash flow if our rentals are only covering our bond payments? So the answer is very simple. So what you must remember in real estate and property is you make money when you buy. Now, what a lot of people do is they'll go and they'll buy an apartment in a new development, or they will, buy a perfectly fine property at market value, and they'll rent it out and pretty much cover their bond and maybe a couple of other expenses if they're lucky. But, when you deduct all the other expenses I've spoken of, generally most people at best will break even or make a slight loss, especially for the first few years of holding that property. So the remedy to this is that we make money when we buy. Yes, when we buy property. So essentially you need to buy a property that's below market value. Now, generally, there has to be a reason why you're buying below market value, right? So the property is probably distressed. It needs a little bit of work. Perhaps the seller themselves are in a bad situation and are willing to sell for a discounted price. So you may ask yourself, why would I want to buy a rundown property? What is the reason behind that? How is that going to affect my cash flow? And the answer is quite simple. When you buy a property below market value, this allows you to add value to the property through the renovations and work that you're going to put into it. So what happens is, when you buy the property and you fix it up, you're able to finance the property a lot higher through the bank than what you bought the property for. And this allows you to pull out all the equity or all the money that you've put into the property. So essentially what happens is you've now bought a property below market value, but because you've added value to it, you're able to take all of the money that you put into it back through refinancing the property. And because you're renting the property out, you're then able to cash flow quite significantly, allowing you to create a buffer between your expenses and your profit, which is what you extract on a monthly basis. Now, you might say to me, well, Matt, that's great and everything. I've essentially got all the money that I've, put into the property back, but how's that going to make me profit each and every month? So if you remember what I said, you need to buy right, and you make money when you buy. So depending on how much work you need to put in and what your estimated refinance value is at the end of the project determines how much you should pay for the property. So you've got to almost determine what your rental amount will be at the end once the property is fixed up, and what all your expenses are going to be, and you almost need to determine what's the maximum amount that you can finance that property for, so that when you deduct all the expenses, you are still making a profit at the end. So generally, we need to look at buying properties somewhere around 50% below market value in order to cash flow significantly at the end of each month. And another trick and another thing to help boost the cash flow of the property is to try and get multiple streams of income on the property. So what you can look at doing is, if you are buying quite a big property, you could look at dividing it up. Perhaps you can, keep it as a house and a couple of cottages. You have to be a bit smart and a bit clever in the way that you divide your property. Remember, you're going to be able to rent out 3 smaller units on one property for more income than you would if you had to rent out the entire big property to one person or one family. So that's another way that you can significantly boost your cash flow. And then some final tips. You can also look at advertising. If your property is located correctly, people might pay to advertise on your property if there's large amounts of traffic that perhaps pass by the property. And another way to do it is to perhaps charge for value-added services to your tenants. So you could charge them for Wi-Fi usage at a below-market rate that they would pay had they gone and got it themselves. But because you've got several tenants on your property, you can charge each tenant a lower rate than if they had to get the Wi-Fi themselves. But you yourself are actually benefiting from that and covering the cost of the Wi-Fi and making a little bit of extra money for yourself. So think of things like that the next time you're looking to cash flow on your rental properties. I hope this video helps, and let us know in the comments what else you'd like to hear about. And if we may ask if you can just like this video and subscribe to the page, we'd really appreciate it. Cheers for now.